Time for the international papers now. Elena is with us here on set. What are they all talking about today then, Elena?
They're all talking about the Eurozone crisis again, Stuart. If you hadn't had enough of that with Owen, we've got more. No,
Hooray.
Seriously though, these are these supposedly secret talks, which aren't very secret because they're on the front page of every paper, going on between the heads of the Eurozone to talk about a more integrated fiscal union. Now, this essentially is a federal Europe plan, as The Guardian puts it on its front page. The idea of having a plan which would allow Eurozone countries to pool national debt and banking liabilities in exchange for Eurozone governments surrendering a significant amount of sovereignty. This is really the idea of having a unified fiscal policy, a fiscal policy decided from Brussels. Now, the Guardian reckons this might be the only way now to save the euro. It doesn't necessarily mean it's desirable, as they would put it, but it means that a United States of Europe, as they put it, might just be the only way to go now to hold on to the currency, because there just seems to be no other alternative. It's Spain's banks, of course, the elitist problem that are sending the euro tumbling. Now, in order to actually shore them up, the Spanish government itself doesn't have a sufficient amount of cash to do so. They don't want to actually ask for a bailout from the EU, because then that would mean very tough repayment terms for Spain. It would be very embarrassing for Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy. It's not what the country wants. And anyway, it's not the national debt that really is at stake, and because it's the debt that was created by Spain's banks rather than its state. And the vast majority of the debt that Spain's state has at the moment was created when they were trying to save their banks throughout this crisis. So what they want is to arrive at some kind of conclusion where the ECB or the European Financial Stability Fund could directly bail out the banks, something which is currently impossible. They have to do it via bailing out the state. So this is the kind of agreement that they are willing to give up a chunk of their sovereignty to allow to happen. Now, but would this really be possible? You know, The Guardian explains what the idea is, and they say that Merkel is calling Hollande's bluff by saying that in order to agree to anything, which would mean that Germany's financial strength would be supporting Spain's debt, she's going to insist that she plays a role in imposing Spain's fiscal policy, if you like. Now, this, though, they say would increase what is already Europe's enormous democratic deficit. It's this deciding fiscal policy in Brussels that has so much upset, for example, the Greeks when they voted against the policies against parties that supported having Greece's fiscal policy decided by Brussels. So there's not much chance for thinking that other countries' electorates will agree with this anymore. As The Independent puts it, there are just too many financial and cultural differences between the Eurozone's different countries to get this to work. 75% of Greeks said in a poll they're worried about giving over too much sovereignty to Brussels. Only 56% of Germans are worried about it, and that just shows how big the cultural gap is.
So what about the German press then, the German newspapers? What are they making of it?
Well, Der Spiegel says today that the vast majority of German voters back the idea of forcing Spain to take a bailout, which is what the German government wants to see, to stop it being allowed to drag the euro down further. Got to bear in mind, though, that Angela Merkel's management of this crisis is being criticised more and more within Germany. There's a paper written in the Süddeutsche Zeitung, an article written by the former foreign minister Joschka Fischer today, in which he says that Merkel's intransigence on the euro crisis means that Germany could bring Europe into chaos for the third time in a century. He reckons that she takes a huge amount of responsibility for what's gone wrong and that she should have allowed Eurobonds a long time ago.
And you've also picked out something that sounds like an amazing story. I have no idea what this is about. An American nun has upset the Vatican.
Yes, this is Sister Margaret Farley, who's also a professor at Yale University, an extremely well-recognised writer of religious books. The Vatican has condemned a book that she's written as deviant thinking. And this is a book that has actually won a prize in the US, but it backs, amongst other things, the idea of gay marriage, of people being allowed to marry after divorce, and of masturbation, all ideas strongly opposed by the Catholic Church since the dawn of time, or, the invention of the Church. Now, the Vatican apparently says in a communique that's been signed by the Pope that she is just part of a worrying trend of radical feminism infecting America's nuns.
OK, Elena Casas with the view of the Vatican there on France 24 with the international papers. Thanks a lot. Here's the headlines then. The summit set to